Everyone. Today my intention was not to pop up in this video since it is too long, but since it is given by my mentor in the form of a sound clip, it is necessary to give you a nutshell of the same. So I have recently completed my level 1 in international certified career coach, and if the situation get normal, we are planning to associate with mindless so that all the students will get a platform. Their dashboard will be created for them where they can upload their profile, their likes and dislikes and background. By seeing that, the mentors will provide them guidance where to read, which which colleges they can approach in abroad, what are the various prospects, everything they will manage. So before sending our children abroad, we have to see many things. Suppose the first one is size and diversity of student body. So that indicates that how your child can cope up with the environment. Whether they can cope up with 15 in a college where there is only 15 students, or whether they can cope up in a college where they can adjust with 200 number of students. Next, location is very important, where because you are sending your child abroad, whether proximity, your relatives, whether there are any relatives, whether it is close to city or some village. It is very important to look all these things. Next, academic programs. What are the academic programs, whether they like these things or not. The campus life is very important, because your child is going to spend there 3 years or 4 years. So whether their athletics are provided, whether various activities are provided, whether housing, whether there are various facilities available in the campus or not. Next, graduation and retention, whether they can retain there after their graduation in order to look for job prospects. That is very essential part. And lastly, financial and scholarships. So it is very important, because you are going to invest a lot, and if the college provides some kind of scholarship, that will be very helpful to you. So this video we will try to give you some idea about that. In the subsequent video, we will provide you more information.
USA was a very postgraduate market, but over the years, a lot more students from India are going in for undergrads as well. China remains the top country which is sending students to the USA. India is number 2 on that list. So we are the second highest provider of students who go and study at US institutions. So why USA? What are the factors that students are looking for when they say, I want to go to the USA? Obviously, the quality of the degree is very important. Am I getting a good education? Right? You don't want to go to and spend that much money if the quality is not good. And by far, a large percentage of the colleges in the US are fantastic in terms of quality, with fantastic infrastructure and good quality education. But by far the most important reason that the students are looking for is the ability that the US education offers. You know, in India, that when students apply to colleges, they have to apply into a particular stream. And I know PD did mention a few universities which are more liberal arts in nature, where you can go in undeclared also. But you can, as he said, count them on your fingertips. That's about 10 to 12 in India. By far, everyone else in India, you have to pre-decide, okay, I want to go for a BBA or a BCom or a psychology degree or a sociology degree or mechanical engineering or civil engineering. Even within engineering, by far, you have to really understand and decide what is it that I want to study, which part of engineering. So in the US, you can go in totally undeclared. You are 18 years old, your students are 17, 18. Do they really know what they want for the rest of their life? It's so difficult for them to make that decision when they're 16 to 18-year-old. So the US allows them to go in undeclared, even confused or having 2-3 options that they really want to do, and say, I want to explore and experiment and take up a lot of courses over the next 2 years, and then decide what is going to be my major. They have a huge variety of streams and majors that you can choose from. Even the smallest university would have about 30 to 40 majors that you can look at. Larger universities are reputed to have 300 to 400 majors that you can choose from. So a wide variety of majors that your students can look at. So the first 2 years are usually when you can experiment, take out a variety of courses and say, I think I like this. I went to Stanford thinking I'll do computer science because that was a sunrise industry and everyone should be doing something which will get a good job, right? I went in there and I did a few courses in computer science. Okay, I liked it. I was not really excited about it. I could not see myself sitting in front of the computer and just coding all day. Then I started taking some other courses. I took up courses in psychology, philosophy, economics, etc. And I fell in love with economics. Right? I said, this is something I really love. I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to understand how economics works, how economies and countries work, how companies make decisions on investments, etc. And I fell in love with economics. So I changed my major after 2 years from computer science to economics. Right? And I did a minor in computer science. So minor is approximately half the courses where you want to go into an area of your interest, but don't want to do the full studies to do a major or a degree in that. So I did a major in economics and a minor in computer science, and I'm very happy, right? Because I was able to change into something I wanted to do. In India, you can't make that change. If you want to change from BBA to something else, you'll have to drop out of that college and reapply into a different college maybe. Right? Or reapply into the same college for a different stream, losing that year. In the US, you don't lose that year. You don't lose those 2 years when you're making that change. Your credits still count when you move on. Also, when you're going to a university, the US universities are always giving you a lot of opportunities to apply your research, to do research, to apply your knowledge in internships, to work with the industry, together with the industry. From the first day onward, from the first week onward, students can actually work with professors and do research. You know, if they're interested in research, they can go in with a professor and say, I want to co-author a paper with you. I want to help you with your research. And I know students who've actually co-authored papers and gone in and presented those papers in Europe and other countries of the world along with a professor. Imagine having a PhD kind of a professor working with you on a research and presenting a paper with you. What a great empowerment that you are as an 18-year-old or 19-year-old feeling. So that's the kind of opportunities these colleges are giving you in the US from day one. I put in a couple of numbers over there. Even number 200 to 400 have good resources and great faculty. What do you think that means? To get great practical learning and research and academics. I have myself been to more than 150 to 200 colleges in the US. And no matter what the ranking of that institution is, when I go there, I feel like I want to study here. It's such a great atmosphere. Students are really engaged. The faculty are there wanting to help their students, etc. So there's a lot of opportunities even at the university. Students are applying to the IITs, sitting for the joint entrance examinations for about 20 to 25,000 seats, which is about 1%, a little bit more than 1%. So you can see how much more difficult it is to get into these top institutions in the country, in India. Let me give a disclaimer there also. When we look at a 4% acceptance rate for a Stanford and Harvard, it is also a body of students who are self-selected, right? Not everyone's going to be applying to Harvard. In India, everyone appears for the IIT joint entrance. My neighbor is appearing, my peer is appearing, my cousin is appearing, my so-and-so had appeared, my whole family went to IIT, so I have to appear whether I like it or not, whether I'm good at it or not, I'm going to appear. So that sort of skews the acceptance rate. And so these universities are making sure, American universities are making sure that you are highly employable or you are eligible to get into good PG programs, good master's programs. So that's going to be important for you, that what are my outcomes? Am I able to go into the industry and work after I finish my academics, after I finish my degree? Am I eligible to get into postgraduate programs? Have they prepared me well enough that a good institution can take me for postgraduate studies? And yes, the good university in the US, but if you're doing a STEM graduation, then you can stay back for an additional 2 years. So you get 3 years to stay back and work in the country if you're a STEM graduate, okay? So this means that you can use your education to actually work in the country and get some practical experience. And within those 3 years, you can also apply for an H-1B if you want to stay back longer. Though the H-1B is a lottery process, but you can apply for it and try your luck at it. Okay, so that's what, I mean, the opportunities to stay back and work in the country are there currently. If it changes, obviously you will hear about it, you'll read about it. But actually, Donald Trump has been talking about for the last 4 years, he's not made any changes to this option right now, because American universities are very dependent upon international students for money. A lot of these students who come in from China, India, and the rest of the world actually are full pay students. American students are heavily subsidized. They have a lot of financial aid. So universities depend on these foreign students to get money. So hopefully they'll not change it, because they're still dependent on these students. Great, so that's about why you want to go there. What are the factors now in, one second. Yeah, what are the factors now in what the universities are looking for in terms of why they will take you in. Let's look at the Indian context. What are Indian colleges looking at? And you know, all of you who are working with Indian students, that Indians universities will be looking at either your grade 12 results, that's your board exams, whether it's ISC or CBSE or a state board exam, or they will look at an entrance test or a combination of the two. So the IITs have their entrance test, others have their Symbiosis has an entrance test, Christ has an entrance test, Narsi Monji has an entrance test, and there are others like the Delhi University. A lot of colleges will depend only on the board results, which is sort of in a mess this year. But that's what they will be doing, and they're waiting for the board results to come out, right? So in India, that is the only thing that they're looking for. God forbid if your board exams didn't go well, if you were not well on the day that you had the entrance test, or you had a fight, if your student had a fight with a boyfriend or a girlfriend and they said, no, I don't want to study anymore, I don't want to give this exam, that means they cannot get into a good college, because everything is dependent upon their performance on one given day or on a few weeks where they're going to be giving the board exams. Okay. Now, what happens in the US vis-a-vis the US context, and this is a very important thing that you should look at. The US looks at a holistic admission process, which means that the term holistic is very important for you to understand. As the term suggests, it's an all-round whole. It's a holistic admission process. They look at a lot of your things more than academics. And even in academics, so what are the factors that are required? Even in academics, when we talk about academics, that remains the most important part for American institutions. They will look at your academic record the most, but they're going to look at 4 years of your academics. So it is not your performance on a given day. It is not your performance on a week or 2 weeks of examinations at the end of class 12. It is 4 years of your academic record. And that's class 9, both your terms, or 3 terms if your school has all that. Class 10 board results are very important. 11, all the terms. Class 12. All these factors come in. They will also look at what are the subjects the student is selecting. Is the student selecting the most rigorous subjects that the college is providing? You know, one curriculum that the school has offered. Now in India, they understand that we choose based upon a stream. If we like humanities or commerce or science, we cannot, unless you're in an IB school, you cannot always make a selection of a variety of them. You cannot choose one science, one humanities, one commerce, etc. They understand that. So they're going to weigh your student on the context of where they're coming from. Please remember that. So it is not something that you have to worry about so much, but having up this stream, don't worry about the most rigorous or the less rigorous courses. Take up this stream because that is what is going to help you later on. They're going to look at all the grades. They're going to look at your rankings. In case your school is giving rankings, the ranking of that student is going to be important. Are they in the top 10, 15% of the class? Are they in the bottom 20% of the class? Because that is how they establish the context of how the student is performing vis-a-vis the rest of the class, vis-a-vis the rest of the school. Now, in addition to academics, there are some standardized measures that they look at, and these are the standardized tests. Okay, what are these standardized tests? And you'd all have heard of SAT and ACT. And we get this question quite a lot, that which one should we give? Should we give both, the other? Which one is preferred? The SAT and the ACT are equally at par. They are at par. They're not equally at par. They're at par. All universities look at them with equal weightage. It does not matter which one the student gives. You should be advising the student that please try to give one which you are able to perform better in. So make them take the mock test. Each of their websites have those diagnostic tests and the mock tests. Ask them to take up the mock test and see which one they are more comfortable with. They're both about 3.5 to 4 hours. They both have an English and a math section. The ACT has an additional science section. Now, the science section is not your knowledge of science. It does not test what is Boyle's law, what is inertia, etc., but the way you're able to think in science terms. They might give you a passage which is based on science and ask you to interpret that, or ask you questions on comprehending that passage. They might give you a graph and ask you questions based on the graph, or a set of data, etc. So a lot of my commerce and humanities students also take up the ACT because they don't mind taking up the science section in there. It is not knowledge of science. Please remember that. The SAT is a little bit more complicated with the tougher questions or more thinking oriented questions. ACT has more straightforward questions, but ACT also has more questions. So I know I'm going a little bit fast, but you can do a lot of research. I'm just trying to introduce certain terms to you, but you can read up about them a lot more at your own time. And other tests include the subject tests and the advanced placements. So I'll quickly go over each one of them. The subject tests are again achievement based or knowledge based tests. They're unlike the SAT or ACT. These are achievement or knowledge based tests. Most of the universities in the US do not require these. Very few now, about 10 to 15, may actually require the subject test, and that number is going down over the years. In a few years, we believe these may not even be relevant anymore. But if your student is going to go in for a science or an engineering major, I do recommend that they give one of these tests, because these are primarily going to be for Indian students. Again, they would be able to give the maths or the sciences. Most of our students in India would not be able to take up the US history or the world history or the literature and the languages, because we don't have an exposure in our school curriculum to them. But your students, if they're in the science curriculum or the science stream, can take up maths, physics, chemistry, biology, whatever they want. Usually, if a college requires them, they'll require 2 of them. They'll not require more than that. So a student can select which one they're more proficient with and give them. These are also graded out of 800. They are 1-hour tests, and you can take up to 3 on one single day. Having said that, I'll just revert back to the SAT and ACT. Now, when we say SAT and ACT, I know most of the American institutions do require them, but there's a growing number again over there which are saying we are test optional or test blind. We do not require your tests to consider you, because they are believing that the tests are not actually a good measure of finding out whether the student is or student's academic ability. It is too skewed in favor of people with privileges, people who can afford to go to testing centers or training centers and take coaching and do better in those tests, or people who can test multiple times will obviously score more. And American universities are increasingly about access, about enabling less privileged students to have access to the same education that the more privileged students do. So with that scenario in mind, they are putting less and less weightage on the SAT tests, or even doing away with them altogether. Despair, there's more than 1,200 colleges in the US itself which do not require the SAT or ACT. So yes, they're still in a good place if they want to go without the test. The next test I want to talk about is the advanced placement. Now, none of the universities require the advanced placement tests. What they will be looking for is using these tests to give you credit in college courses. So if you've taken the advanced placement and you've scored well, it's out of 5. So if you've scored 4 or 5 in particular subjects, and the subjects include economics, psychology, computer science, some of the other sciences like physics, chemistry, biology, calculus, some languages. So there's a lot of subjects they can choose for, more than what they have in the subject tests. While they don't require it, but if you do well in them, it will be added to your profile. It will add to your academic profile. It shows that you have challenged yourself a little bit more than what you have done or what others have done with their school curriculum. You've studied on your own, you've taken the APs on your own, and you've done well in them. So it helps to showcase to the university that I'm intellectually curious, I can do more than what my school curriculum offers, and I can take this test on my own and do well. So yes, it helps you. It is not a required thing. And if you do well in them, you will get credits from college courses where you can go to a higher level course or get some credits enabling you to graduate earlier. Some colleges, because you're dealing with foreign students, foreign to America, some colleges also require an English proficiency test. Now, if your student's SAT score or ACT score in English is pretty good, they might actually give you a waiver. Or if your student is from the A-level curriculum or the IB English, they might be getting waivers from this requirement. Otherwise, they might be required to take this test. So it makes sense for you to check with the university that they're applying to whether your student will get a waiver or they will have to take the test. And these include the TOEFL, Test of English as a Foreign Language, or the IELTS, or the PTE, which is the Pearson Test of English, or the Duolingo, which is becoming increasingly popular as an online at-home option, which is pretty cheap, and more universities, especially this year, are accepting the Duolingo. So your student can do any one of these that they prefer to showcase their ability in English. Now, these tests of English is never used as a selection tool. It is used as an eligibility tool. Okay, and if you take the IELTS, it's a good idea to take the IELTS if your student is also thinking of applying to other countries. And we'll come to that also, but most of the other countries will require one English proficiency test, which is most commonly the IELTS, whether it's Canada or UK or Singapore, Hong Kong, Australia. The IELTS remains the most common test across the world. Apart from studying, apart from what they are doing in the classroom, these could be any activities that the student has been involved in, starting from grade 9 again. Everything they look at is the last 4 years, which is class. And today we're talking about undergrad. I'm not even going into postgrad. That's for a separate day and session. We're talking only about undergrad students. So they will be looking at your 4 years of high school, class 9 to 12. And the activities could be a whole range of things. Could be sports, could be debate and MUN and other public speaking activities, could be singing, theater, dance, whatever your students are interested in. Even something as simple as taking care of a younger sibling when both my parents are working. That I spend 3 hours babysitting my younger sister, every evening, because both my parents are at work, helping her do her homework, feeding her, etc. That becomes a an activity as well, because it shows that you're contributing to your family responsibilities. What have you been doing during the lockdown? Have you been helping with household work and all that? Have you been working 3 hours a day, mopping your floors, helping in kitchen and all that? That becomes an activity. Please remember, when you're talking to your students, it is not the number of things that they do. It is what they're doing with a lot of passion and commitment. It is less number maybe, but where do they bring in their passion? Where do they show their accomplishment? Where have they been showing passion or leadership skills? So they might be part of a couple of clubs in school. Are they the president or the treasurer or the secretary of that club? They might be part of the cricket team. Are they the school captain in cricket? Are they the vice captain? Are they the house captain? At what level do they do these activities? So if they're a soccer player, are they playing for the class team or the house team or a school team or the state team? Are they playing at the national level for the state? So each level helps more. So it might be just one thing, but you're doing it at a national level. That will count for more than 10 things that you're doing as a hobby at home. Okay, so this is very important for you to understand, that it is not the breadth. Yes, they do want to see that you're involved in a lot of things, but more importantly, the depth matters a lot more. That what is it that I'm doing with commitment, passion, achievement for a number of years that can actually help me take things forward, that can actually showcase my passion for certain things. We've had students who got President's Award for community service, and that's the highest award in the country that you can get. We've had students who've been playing concerts, piano concerts, solo piano concerts all over the country, or dancers who've been doing stage performances all over the country, who've got their, even in grade 11, they've got their bachelor's in music or dance. That shows the level of commitment that they have to a particular activity. So please remember, it is not the number of things, it is the depth you bring to whatever you're doing, which is going to always be more important for them. Okay, and as I said, it could be a variety of things. No matter what they want to do, a lot of students start their own organizations to help with a social cause. Remember one thing, that community service is very important again, because there was a recent report, I think 3 to 4 years ago, that Harvard University has, called Turning the Tide, and they have a website called Making Caring Common, where they talk about why universities should also look more at students with a heart, students who want to make a change in the world, students who are trying to do something for other people rather than only their academics. And more universities are placing a lot more importance on what are students giving back to the community and how are they helping those around them, maybe equally privileged, maybe less privileged, but are you doing something to give back to the community? It shows a heart, it shows that you want to make change. The holistic admission process is all about, isn't it? He also has the right, and they ask you multiple essays, sometimes maybe none, 5 or 6 essays as well, that students have to answer. And there could be a variety of topics. It could be about, why do you want to do this particular major? It could be a very simple and a common one is, why do you want to come to us? Why do you want to come to Cornell? Why do you want to come to Wheaton College in Massachusetts? So colleges want to know why you want to choose them. And that's more about the student being able to convince them that I am a good fit for you. What I have fits in with what you can give me and goes well with what I want to do in life, and that is the reason I want to come to you. So there's going to be a lot of essays that the students have to write with, and you as a counselor should be able to help them overall to find out what their story is, what is so unique about them. Otherwise, there's so many students who have the same academics, the same activities, etc., but these can actually set them apart in terms of their personality. We'll be giving a letter of recommendation and the school transcripts, as well as a description of how the school, what kind of a school it is, what kind of curriculum you follow, how do you grade your students, etc. You will also be asking a couple of your teachers, the students will be asking a couple of teachers to write letters of recommendations for them. These letters are usually confidential. Okay, the student does not get to see them. They are absolutely confidential, and students have to waive their right to have access to them. Okay, and it is, which talks about how you know the student, what have you seen of them, what have you seen of the qualities that they have, their personality, their character, how you've seen them in the classroom, etc. And then you write write those letters to the university, and the university bases the personality and the competitiveness of a student based upon your letter also. The student can also get additional letters of recommendation from people who know them well. These are supplemental to what the teacher recommendations are. They are not going to offset them, they're not going to substitute them, but they will be supplemental. And they can come in from someone they worked with as an intern. They can come in from an NGO where a supervisor will help them, can write about their work in the NGO. It could be from a coach, from a cricket coach, from a dance guru or a dance teacher or a singing coach, etc. So there's a whole bunch of people who can write these letters of recommendations in addition to the teachers. So the academic capability. Although by law, they still need a minimum level. So NCAA, which is the National Collegiate Athletic Association, has defined the minimum level of SAT score that each athlete must need for them to get into a college to play sports for them. So there is definitely going to be a minimum. In addition to your academic, they'll need a personal statement, which is a statement of purpose, a very simple essay, 4,000 characters in length, which talks about what you want to do, why you want to do it, what are your career goals, what are the things you've done in your past which enable us to think, yes, you're going to be good at doing things, how have you shown your interest, etc. They will need one letter of recommendation, which can be from the guidance counselor or from a teacher. They will need one IELTS, which we talked about earlier also. It's an English proficiency test. Certain universities, the more popular, the more selective ones like Oxford, Cambridge, LSE, etc., will need their own test also, or an interview. Okay, if you want to study economics, have you started writing research papers even in class 10, 11, 12? Have you done other things in economics which showcases to the university that I'm really good in this subject, that I'm really interested in this subject? Okay, great. What they use is a system called the UCAS, which is a common application system for in the UK. Now, very quickly, US is a 4-year education. UK is 3 years for the most part. Colleges in Scotland are 4 years. In the rest of UK, they're usually 3 years, unless some courses like medical and law and all, maybe more than 3 years, but usually for a normal course, it's going to be 3 years. Colleges in Scotland are all 4 years, which also means Scottish colleges are able to give you a little bit more flexibility. So in the first year in a Scottish college, you might be doing your area, your major of choice. Along with that, you do another stream that you do study in the first year. Second year, you carry on with your major and you do a third stream to bring some knowledge in an area of interest that you want. And in the final 2 years, you'll go majorly into your major. No pun intended. You'll go into that in more depth. So the UCAS actually enables you to research colleges. There's a lot of information about colleges, class 12 results. Well, in UK, what they have changed once Boris Johnson has come in, they are now allowing you to stay back for 2 years on your visa. So we spoke about the OPT in US, where you can stay back for up to 3 years if you have STEM. In UK, everyone can stay back for 2 years just looking for a job. Even if you don't have a job, you can stay back for 2 years and look for a job. And once you get that job, you can apply for a work permit and take that forward. In Australia, again, you can work for up to 2 years after you finish your bachelor's degree. While most bachelor's degree are 3 years, you can actually stay back for a 4th year and do an honors degree as well, where you can do a thesis and take up an honors program. Now, very important, I want to spend some time over in Canada because it's probably the second most popular country for Indian students. Canada has been rising in popularity. So I read about 10-15 years ago, in 2005, there were about 7,500 students from India in Canada. But last year, there were more than 1 lakh. It's an exponential growth from India to Canada, and there are a few good reasons for it. Number one, obviously, is the quality of education. A lot of good Canadian universities, and they're all controlled by the government, so the quality is pretty much uniform or good quality across all of them. It's ranked number 1 by the UN in the quality of life. I know it gets really cold, but apart from that, the quality of life and the comfort is really good, with a lot of social security, and you know how responsive they've been even to the COVID situation, helping their citizens out and helping international students out also. So the government is very proactive in helping the citizens. Canada had a long-term plan a few years ago that by 2021, they want to get 450,000 students into the country. 2 years ago, they exceeded that and reached 1 million already. So you can see that across the world, the students are flocking to Canada because of all these admission advantages, cost advantages. And in Canada, the most important factor again is that you can stay back, you get a postgraduate work permit, and you can stay back for 3 years and work in the country. And in those 3 years, you can also apply for a PR, a permanent residency, a permanent residency, and continue staying in the country. So Canada overall becomes an amazing option for students who are looking at a country where they get good quality, where it's easier to get admission into some very good universities, where it is, etc. And you are able to stay back and work and continue on as a permanent resident or even a citizen. So it checks off all the boxes that a lot of overseas students are looking for, and Canada has become very popular across the world. Now, what are the requirements in Canada? Most important, again, is going to be your academics, where they look at the most recent results a lot more. So it's going to be your class 10, 11, 12 results. However, please remember that the more selective universities like Waterloo, Toronto, UBC are increasingly looking at it in a holistic manner, because they get so many applications and a lot of them with great academics that they're unable to choose unless they look at other factors also. So these few universities are looking more at holistic, where they want to see what kind of leadership you've had, what kind of activities you might have taken part in, what are the other things in academics you've done outside of your school also, maybe tests like the Euclid Maths test that the Waterloo looks at and other tests, etc. So other factors have started creeping into the Canadian system more for the more selective colleges. Apart from that, most of the colleges will be requiring IO, what they will be requiring are your class 10, 11, 12 results, an English test, which is probably going to be the IELTS. Some of them may require an essay or two, which you'll get to know about. And maybe in very few colleges, an letter of recommendation. Okay, so that's the overall requirement. It is much easier to get in. You are able to apply through a common system in certain provinces, like Ontario has its own application system called OUAC. All the universities, including Waterloo, McMaster, Western, Brock, Queen's, York, which are in Ontario. You can also, then after you apply through that common system, they will get access to their own system where they and more essays, etc. Be given between January to April and May, and there will be some scholarships available, and we'll talk about that if we have the time. But Canada is not very well known for scholarships. Please remember that. They will have some scholarships which are more merit-based than need-based. A country like Netherlands with 13 universities in the top 200. India has 3. So you can see the difference in the quality of a lot of these universities. They're usually much cheaper. So just talking about cost, US is usually about 40 to 50, 55 lakhs a year. UK is about 25 to 30 lakhs a year for an Indian student, including everything, Netherlands is only about 18 lakhs a year, 18 lakh Indian rupees a year for an Indian student who wants to study there and live there. And after you finish your degree, you can stay back for 1 year and work over there, or you can even come back home and go back after 5 years and use that 1 year that you have pending to look for a job in that time. So it's kept in abeyance whenever you want to use it. Singapore is a very popular country for Indian students, especially those who are looking at the 3 top ones: NUS, National University of Singapore, NTU, as well as SMU, Singapore Management University. The Singapore universities will have results to come out. You can apply within March of your class 12, but they will wait for the 12 results to come out before they give you admission. Hong Kong is following a system which is very similar to UK. I know Hong Kong has lost a lot of its shine because of the political problems happening over there. So a lot of our students who used to go there are no longer Hong Kong at all. So just very quickly though, it follows a system which is very similar to UK, but the education system is 4 years. Now UK, Singapore, Hong Kong are very streamlined, and you have to go into that particular major that you're looking at. In Netherlands, they have a system called university colleges, liberal arts colleges within where they allow you to, where you can go in undeclared also, see what you like and then get into it. So they do have a lot of liberal arts colleges in the Netherlands system. Now a lot of countries will also offer merit-based aid, including US, where they see, okay, this student is really good and we want him on campus. Let's try to attract him by bringing him on campus by giving him financial aid. Okay, so